Welcome to The Explainer. So, if you're in your 20s or early 30s, there's a really good chance you're intimately familiar with this exhausting, heavy feeling. It's that nagging sense that somehow, despite working incredibly hard, you are already behind in life. You scroll through your phone, you look at your peers, and you feel this quiet panic that you're missing milestones you supposedly should have already hit. Well, today we're going to look at the hard data, the neuroscience, and the psychology behind exactly why you feel this way. We're deconstructing the modern quarter-life crisis to understand why it feels like we're being forced to run before we even know how to walk. Just look at this image for a second. It's such a visceral representation of modern expectations, right? A relentless sprint on a treadmill in the middle of nowhere, racing against this giant looming clock. Modern life for emerging adults often feels exactly like this. An endless, absolutely exhausting sprint without any clear destination. You're running towards goals that literally just keep moving, driven by this invisible force telling you there's no time, there's no plan, just pressure. Which brings us to the core mystery we're going to completely deconstruct throughout this explainer. Why do we feel late before life even properly begins? How on earth is it possible that a 24-year-old can wake up and feel like they've already failed? We are going to unpack the specific biological and cultural forces that create this exact phenomenon. Okay, let's dive right into section 1, running before walking. Get a load of this number. According to a massive global survey conducted by LinkedIn, a staggering 75% of 25 to 33-year-olds report experiencing a quarter-life crisis. To put that into perspective, that is 3/4 of young adults. This absolutely proves that feeling lost, anxious, or totally behind in your career is not an individual failure. It's a generational epidemic. So what does this crisis actually look like in our day-to-day lives? Well, we enter emerging adulthood with these super high expectations of freedom, career satisfaction, and finally figuring out who we are. But reality quickly hits you with existential uncertainty, intense internal and external pressures, and a massive gap between what we expected our 20s to be versus the sheer instability we actually face. And honestly, it leaves millions of people feeling completely paralyzed and stuck in their decisions. All right, moving on to section 2, the neuroscience of now. To figure out why everything feels so incredibly intense right now, we have to look under the hood at our brain's hardware, specifically contrasting two key areas. On one side, we have the limbic system. This is the emotional and reward processing center of the brain, and it develops super rapidly. On the other side is the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for cognitive control, rational decision-making, and long-term planning. The catch? The prefrontal cortex doesn't even finish developing until we're around 25 years old. Neuroscientists actually have a name for this. They call it a developmental mismatch. Basically, this is a structural imbalance in the emerging adult brain. It literally means that our emotional sensitivity and our drive for social reward are light years ahead of our brain's ability to cognitively regulate those feelings. We are experiencing the immense, complex pressures of modern life. The need to pick a career, pay crazy high rent, build a personal brand, way before we fully developed the biological hardware needed to rationally manage that stress. Which brings us to the software running on that hardware. Section 3, the visibility paradox. There's this fascinating piece called The Silent Weight of Visible Lives, and it hits the nail on the head. It says the internet made people visible, but emotionally invisible at the exact same time. Hyperconnection on platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn has ironically led to deep emotional isolation. It creates this pervasive life no balance energy. We see everyone's perfectly curated highlights, but almost nobody feels allowed to admit they're confused anymore. This is a textbook example of Festinger's concept of upward social comparison. It's just human nature to evaluate our messy, behind-the-scenes reality against the highly curated, perfect highlights of everyone else online. And while Instagram fuels lifestyle comparison, a huge wave of research shows LinkedIn is creating intense professional anxiety. Think about it. It turns career development, which used to be a private, messy, trial-and-error process, into a public performance where everyone is somehow always thrilled to announce their latest triumph on a daily basis. When we see a peer succeed online, we generally experience one of two things. First, there's benign envy, which actually motivates us to improve. That's a good thing. But because of the sheer volume of achievements we're blasted with every single day, this almost inevitably tips into malicious envy. Malicious envy breeds resentment, it makes us withdraw, and it is a massive driver of imposter syndrome. You literally start feeling like a fraud in your own career simply because you aren't posting about a promotion every 3 months. Let's bring all this together in section 4, the weight of modern life. Everybody's performing, everybody's comparing, everybody's rushing, and almost nobody feels allowed to admit confusion anymore. Wow. I just want to validate that for you right now. Pretending you have it all together while you are silently struggling is an exhausting byproduct of this visibility paradox. Success became a performance, money became an identity, and honestly, just living a normal life started feeling kind of embarrassing. So, what's the actual hidden toll of all this? Evaluating your personal advancement against a digital scoreboard creates very specific psychological damages. We see Instagram-induced fear of missing out, profound highlight reel body dissatisfaction, intense LinkedIn-fueled imposter syndrome, and ultimately, severe digital burnout. It's this emotional squeezing that leaves young adults feeling totally irrelevant before they even discover who they really are. But there is a way out. Section 5, Building Intrapersonal Capacity. The ultimate antidote to the quarter-life crisis is a concept called intrapersonal capacity. Simply put, this is your psychological resilience. It's your ability to manage your own thoughts, handle inner conflicts, and maintain a healthy internal dialogue while navigating major life transitions. Think of intrapersonal capacity like an internal shock absorber, a buffer that actually transforms vulnerability, rejection, and self-doubt into a catalyst for immense psychological growth. So, how do we actually build this? Well, research points to 3 very practical steps. First up, self-regulation. That means learning to manage the immediate anxiety of the now without automatically reaching for your phone to check someone else's timeline. Second is narrative self-reflection, using tools like journaling to actually process your thoughts so you aren't just reacting blindly to everything. And third, meaningful goal setting or life crafting. This means defining what success looks like for you, completely divorced from the metrics of online social comparison. When we build these internal capacities, we can stop internalizing the chaos of our 20s as the personal failure. We literally have to transform the narrative here. Rejection, career instability, and uncertainty, those are not personal defects. They're not signs that you're broken. They are integral, completely necessary steps in your personal development. By reflecting on them rather than running away from them, you begin to finally walk on your own 2 feet. I want to leave you with one final powerful thought to chew on. Life is not a race you're losing. It's a journey you are just beginning to craft. Remember that giant clock on the treadmill we saw at the very beginning? It literally only has power over you if you agree to run in someone else's race. Step off the digital treadmill, stop performing for the timeline, and start actively crafting your own authentic offline reality. What is one meaningful goal you can set today that has absolutely nothing to do with who might see it online? Thank you so much for watching The Explainer, and I really hope this helps you find your balance.